Welcome to the third scheduled, the fourth done because we had them out of order, but that's okay. Welcome everybody to our Ethics in Mediumship panel. And today we have with us three members of the PsyChicks Collective, wonderful individual and unique business owners, but they all identify as being professional mediums. So that is the work that they do in this world. And today we are going to be having an insightful conversation about what it means to do this work with ethics and integrity. So if you've not attended any of our panels yet, the format of which we run is with a introduction and then a three question kind of round. The intention behind these questions is to kind of set the baseline for each of our panelists, what they think, and they all have different opinions that they're bringing and perspectives and lived experiences. So I'm really excited to hear from them on our three main questions. And then we will go to audience Q&A. If you are in the audience right now and you have a question come up, there's two ways to prep to ask that question. One, you can pop it into the chat and I will grab that question and ask for you as the moderator. If you would like to come on camera and have a discussion with our panelists, you may do that by raising your hand, and then you're able to come and engage with them right here live at the Q&A portion of today's event. So first of all, we're going to start with some introductions so you know exactly who's sitting in front of you. And I'm very excited to introduce you to all of these beautiful collective members here today. So we're going to start up with M, and then if you could bounce to Sybil and then Alyssa for this introduction part, please share with everybody who you are, what brings you here today, and a bit of your background. And yeah, I look forward to hearing from each of you as we go through these intros. So, Em, if you could start us off.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Brandie, and thank you so much for having me here. So I'm Em, and I am a psychic medium and spiritual mentor. So I'm coming to you from the sunny Gold Coast in Australia this morning. It's Saturday here for me. So yeah, I am here, but originally from the north of England, as you might hear by my voice, it is a little bit mixed. So I work as a psychic medium, but I also have a beautiful academy of aspiring mediums that come and work with me. I help them on their journey to becoming confident and actually stepping into their own business. I'm super excited about, sharing my thoughts and just having this discussion and hearing what everyone else has to say as well. So thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sybil, and I'm also a psychic medium. And I help a lot of people navigate through grief, transformation, and awakening their own gifts. I really started becoming a medium once a lot of people have passed in my life, and I wanted to really reconnect with them. And that's what really got me started on this journey, was going through my own grief and transformation. And now I do it as a business to help others find their own purpose after the loss of deep grief and change through life itself. So that's one of from Massachusetts. And yeah, I guess that's it for me.
Hi, everybody. This is Alyssa. I am the owner and operator of Afiva's Insights. Afiva is actually legal name of mine as well. And I've had this business since 2018. I am a psychic tarot medium. I have been doing mediumship specifically for coming up to 5 years. I am so excited to share with you how I came into it and have this conversation with these lovely ladies. I am located in the beautiful area of Owen Sound, Ontario, Canada. So that's Southern Ontario. But I'm not too excited about the weather we're getting at the moment because I'm not a winter girl, but that's okay. Yeah, excited to get started.
Amazing. Thank you for introducing yourselves. I too am not a winter girl. November is the time where if I'm not managing my mental health, I start to get the winter blues, and I have to be really aware of myself. So also in Canada as well. So thank you so much, ladies. Now, I just want to remind you as we go through our Q&A questions that it's meant to be a discussion. Obviously, people have diverse opinions on these different topics, and it's important. Oh, we've lost our wonderful M, so we're going to wait for her to come back. Make sure she gets back in. We'll just fill some space here while we do that. Yeah, so I just want to tell everybody who's attending, one of the reasons we've decided to do these panels as a collective, well, two reasons. One, we really want to add more depth to your experience with us in PsyChicks. We have this large Facebook group, and sometimes it feels like this void that is difficult to keep up with. There's a lot of different characters, a lot of different stuff going on, and you don't often get to hear from our collective members and really get a sense of who they are as individuals and what motivates them to do the work that they do. And so we've decided to kind of expand how we're interacting with the community by bringing these panels so you can see our collective collaborating, because we are a true collective. We uplift each other, encourage each other. And the other reason is we have a goal here to show civil discourse. And so in any instance where there's a differing perspective, there's an opportunity to have a conversation. Welcome back, Em. I was just filling some space so that we didn't do anything of importance without you. So no worries.
Apologies for that. Zoom just shut down and kicked me out. Thank you, Zoom.
I believe we're in Mercury retrograde, so some people may choose to blame that on that. But yeah, it's just filling some space, then explaining why we've decided to focus on panels and different opportunities to showcase the various personalities of our collective members, and the sub-agenda of showing people collaborating, having conversations about things that are sometimes difficult to disagree on or difficult to discuss as a whole, because we're all part of the same industry, and how people feel about our industry matters. It affects all of us. One bad medium with lack of integrity proceeding poorly does affect the livelihoods of future mediums that client or group of people come into contact with. And our awareness of that is high. Like, we all know that we, love it or hate it, are all having to rise to both the highest level of the most professional and have to experience the consequences of the person operating at the lowest level. So that said, now that we have our panelists all here, we are going to get started with our very first question. And we're going to start with you, Em. And so the question is this: when it comes to the business side of mediumship, what do you think are some of the important concerns regarding ethics and integrity, and how do you navigate those in your business?
Yeah, this is super interesting, isn't it? Because it comes off the back of, I guess, what you were just saying there, Brandie, about your reputation is, either to the highest person that someone's had an experience with, or to the lowest experience, perspective that someone's had an experience with. And I think I'd like to talk into a little bit more the mentorship side of business, certainly because that's the area that I'm in. So, if you are someone that's looking in to get a mentor for mediumship yourself, right? There's a lot of different ups and downs of mentors definitely out there that I found it was a little bit of a minefield when, certainly I stepped into the mediumship space myself, and I was looking for someone to help me, to guide me, because I was having all these experiences and, I didn't know what to do with them. I felt really overwhelmed. And the hardest thing that I find, or I found in the way that I conduct my business, is that a lot of spaces in the spiritual industry, there's a lot of spiritual bypassing. So there's a lot of people doing probably unethical things on the basis that spirit told me to. There's a lot of that I find going on in this space. So it's a little bit trying to wade through the noise, and it's always going to come back down to, and it doesn't matter what you're doing in your life, it should always come back to, does this feel right for me? Right? Sometimes we put our power outside of us a lot, and we ask other people, you know, one mentor that someone else has got or one medium that someone's gone to and had an amazing experience, someone else might go to them and have not such a good experience. And they're like, oh, well, you had a really good experience. But maybe it's just because they're not necessarily the medium for them. So, you know, in business for me, I would always say, really feel for the person that's talking a language. So it's like something that they're saying that resonates with you. They're saying things that you believe. And, you know, we just talked about that. Everyone's going to have a different belief system, and that's okay because we're all different. We should all have different beliefs around mediumship and around everything in our life. But make sure that, you know, if it's a medium or even if it's a mentor, that you like their energy, you love the way that they, you know, I guess, interact with people. And going back to ethics, it's when someone is not trying to push their agenda on you is really what I feel in this space. Or ethics around, it should always be about healing for me. So any connection, whether you're looking for a mentor, whether you're looking for an actual medium for a reading because you're in grief or loss, for me, mediumship is all about a healing modality. So the way that I work with my clients and the way that I teach is to bring healing and connection and not ego. So, you know, if somebody is trying to, you know, push their own agenda or they are showy, and we know we've got obviously a lot of celebrity mediums, they're in the showy industry. That's what they choose to do, right? That's where they are. But if it's all about the medium and what they can do, it's not about the healing and the connection for me. So I guess bringing it back around is, you know, ethics for me is always really about choosing someone or making connections with that feel really aligned to you, and that the person that you choose or you go to is really speaking to you in a way that resonates with your beliefs and how you feel. There's nothing worse than choosing a mentor or a medium based on what somebody else has said to you, but it doesn't necessarily feel right for you. And certainly if you're looking for a mentor, that's the worst thing you can do, is choose a mentor based on that. And you should always just feel for what feels aligned and right to you. And that's your power within you. So I hope that answers that part of the question. And I'd love to pass over to Sybil and hear what she's got to say as well.
Go ahead, Sybil.
Okay, so I absolutely agree with what Em has said. A lot has to do with, especially when I'm looking for, or when I looked for a mentor at the time, and even with readings, that the vibe has to be the same for me. Like I'll actually I'll, you know, feel into my own feelings, my own gut feelings, my own intuition, and tell the universe, send me like the perfect medium, or does this one fit me? And if it feels off, I look for another one. So that's even before I even book a reading with someone. I'll already know that it feels right. A lot of the things that I feel are most important is I feel reviews are very important though, because, you know, obviously you want to see if somebody has any bad experiences. I think it's important when you look for, like, say, a mediumship reading, that you have more of the, it's really about what you're looking for. And I think action steps. So it's not about somebody that's tapping into your loved ones. It's more about how you can, how they can show you how to connect with your loved ones after the messages are received. So you'll have that, you know, that evidential mediumship, but you'll also have steps on how to continue to connect with them on your own terms. So it's almost as giving you tips and tricks on how to do it yourself, because we all have these gifts. And let's see, I think honoring your energy. So if my cup is not full, I'm not able to really give my space and time fully to another person, to my client. And so I think the energy around it is important. So if you're sick or anything like that, you want to, you know, it's okay to change the reading to a different time or something like that. But really it's about keeping the information private. I think that's most important also. You want to go with someone that you I'm more of like your friend. I'm not your medium that you come to get a reading from. I like sit down and have a cup of tea with, and I'll give you, you know, some really amazing insight from your loved ones. So I guess, yeah, and just staying humble and just learning how to continue to grow within your grieving process and stuff. And hopefully I cleared up some of that. And over to Alyssa.
If you are a small business owner looking to get in front of an audience of curious seekers, then the PsyChicks Collective might be the perfect fit for you. You'll be listed on our directory website and featured in all of our collective advertising efforts. Through our website, we provide aligned client matchmaking. People visiting our directory can send our collective members confidential messages that go into their email inbox. This is just one of the many ways that we help you advertise your unique business. The PsyChicks Collective is active, engaged, diverse, and full of people who are working in the light, sharing their gifts to empower others. We unite under our mission statement to empower self-love and self-trust through the casual exploration of the metaphysical. We would love to have you in our collective. What do you say? Will you join us?
Thank you so much, Brandie, for this opportunity. And going off what both these lovely ladies have already said, I believe in and agree with a lot of what they have already brought to the table, emphasizing on what Em was saying about ego. In mediumship, if it's easy sometimes to allow ego to take the driver's seat in the way of like wanting a confirmed message or wanting to be right, and then that being the sensation or the feeling that's prominent at the time, as opposed to being connected with the client that's in front of you and doing it as a healing transaction. So sometimes I find it like you do have to do the work for yourself to be able to help people do their work. You have to be able to, like Sybil was saying, differentiate between your energy and be able to keep that in your lane and know when it's yours and when it's the person that you're connecting with or the loved one that you're connecting with, and be able to differentiate what's going on between those connections in front of you. But you can only do that if you do the work for yourself and you can actually feel it for yourself before giving that to somebody else. So I think that is a really important part of building a foundation of having an integral transaction with whatever you decide to do with your mediumship, whether it be evidential, like Crime Stoppers, or whether it be mentorship programs, or whether it be one-on-one sessions where it's individuals and about bringing to life that loved one again for them, bringing that magic in, reminding them in subtle ways that that loved one is still with them and how they show them that. And sometimes you just need some validation and support from that loved one. And understanding that that is a sensitive package for people is the other part of what I feel is very, very important, is understanding the sensitivity of, and I'm going to say information, but it's more than information. And that's why it's a sensitive package, is because you're dealing with emotions, you're dealing with grief, you're dealing with baggage, you're dealing with, one reading can make or break someone. And if it's not done with care and awareness, it can be detrimental or harmful to the person that you're connecting with. So all of just emphasizing everything that the other two ladies have said and adding just being honest with yourself and where you're at. Keeping your readings private is definitely crucial. because of the sensitive information that, might come in or through. And people are vulnerable. They like, this is a vulnerable space that we sit in together, and understanding just the weight of that vulnerability, for some people, and in some people it's really difficult even just to be in that space. So just understanding all of those important factors there. I personally, one thing I don't do as an ethic is, I personally do not do any health or pregnancy related readings, just because for me, those topics have so many external factors at play that I'm reading your, like, when we're tapping in to things, that I'm reading your energy. And there's, like I said, there's a lot of external things with those particular topics. So for me personally, and I found a lot of other mediums as well, steer just away from those topics. But there are some mediums that specialize in those topics too. It's just, like Em said, feeling it out, feeling what is you.
Thank you, each of you, for your insight. I want to just add something to the discussion because Em brought this up, and there's different types of mediums that exist. The show medium, or the more performative medium, which you maybe see on social media, or you might see on television, or you might go and have, an experience where they're on a stage and you're in the audience, is one type of mediumship that is well known, and a lot of people are drawn to that because it is a form of entertainment. And those people are, I'm not denying or, celebrating their gifts for what it is. Those people are performers and entertainers on top of doing this work. And unfortunately, right, that's sometimes the stereotype or the only experience, because mediumship, where it's a private one-to-one, is typically a very intimate and personal experience that is not as much shown out in the world, that a lot of people have misconceptions about, because it's very different, right? It's not the performance of mediumship to show and impress somebody with your abilities. It's that healing, that intimate container. And mediums as a whole have to navigate, right, people's expectations who book with them, not always knowing what the expectation is. Sometimes they don't know if they're going to get a client who's expecting, a performance of some sort, a show, something to entertain them and kind of amuse their whimsy while also giving them insight from the beyond. While others, maybe are looking for that more like secure healing container. So I think sometimes it's really important for people to understand that there's diverse opinions, and I said stereotypes, but really it's just what people's expectations are when encountering mediums. It's very diverse. And sometimes, because they might book on your website, you as the medium may not even know what that person's expectations of those sessions are. So I wanted to add that to the conversation because that's what was coming up for me. And it leads into our next question, which is, people often come to mediums seeking validation, closure, reassurance, or relief. Knowing this, how do you empower the client and assure, while empowering them, that you're not overstepping or taking advantage of their vulnerability? So I'd love to hear from each of you on this. And this time we're going to start with Sybil.
Okay, so I feel one of the important things is I remind the client that they have their own power and their own inner wisdom. I don't make absolute statements as in this is a definite prediction, this is something that's, absolutely going to happen. It's more about you making the choices after I get the information. The only definite I can say is the information that I get from spirit itself. And then what you do with that is important after that. I offer guidance rather than like control, over the situation. I help you kind of steer your own way. I validate really your feelings instead of using them as like something that I would gain from. So obviously if you're grieving, I wouldn't be like, oh, definitely book a session with me. It's more about you wanting to come to me and asking me for any advice and what you should do with and then we kind of go from there on what I think best suits like the reading itself. What was the other I'm just going back to the question.
If you need a reminder, so we're talking about making sure, right, that we're not taking advantage of the fact that there is that dynamic of they're in a grief state, they're seeking something from you, right? So how you're managing that.
Yes. So I really remain rooted in compassion, and not performance, like what was mentioned. It's really about I only share what I'm feeling that that person is feeling. I can only go by what like my body tells me in the moment. So everybody's different that I connect with and read. So whenever it's spirit shows me all different things that with different people. So it's really about honoring that specific person. And let's see. And one of them is maintaining the boundaries. So like even like the session length and things like that, I make sure that it's not taking like my energy. You don't sometimes, like for instance, you won't need a 2-hour session to do a mediumship to connect with a loved one. You can have such an impactful reading within 15 minutes. You can get that one specific word that that grandmother gave you, that certain ring, and just that itself would be the most impactful about the whole reading itself, even if you had a 2-hour long session. So it's really about the on what you perceive with that specific person, and just knowing that just being humble and kind, and also listening, not always being the one that gives the messages, but also being there for someone to lean on if they need that support.
Thank you, Sybil.
Okay.
Alyssa, you're up next.
Brandie, could you repeat the question just for me quickly?
Of course, no problem. People often come to mediums seeking validation, closure, reassurance, or relief. Knowing this, how do you operate to empower the client and assure you're not overstepping or taking advantage of their vulnerability?
Okay. To ensure that I'm not overstepping or taking advantage of them, I do not ask for story or details. And I will say, like, I'm not going to ask for anything. Like, if they have an emotional response or reaction to something that comes forward, I won't ask for extra detail, because that's not, if they want to share, if they feel comfortable to release it, if they would like to give more information, I will hold that for them. But I feel it's overstepping if you then, like, you dig into that emotional response of the person you're connecting with. If hope that makes sense how I'm saying that. To ensure empowerment through my readings and my sessions and experiences, I remind people how to come back to themselves in a way of owning their own power back, not, pulling the wool over the eyes about the hard things, and actually recognizing, validating, and identifying those things as they are. Because that in itself, like recognizing things for what they are, allow us to then work with it. So I don't bullcrap the hard stuff is what I'm trying to say. But that also being said, keeping in mind that with each medium, they have their own life and their own experiences that spirit has to work with, which means what spirit uses for me is going to be different than every other medium that you would come across. Knowing this, knowing that spirit uses my life experiences to show me how to explain to the person I'm connecting with the message that's to be delivered. When difficult messages come through, because they do, and they will, taking a moment to really not filter it through ego, but filter it through the proper terminologies that would be more helpful and not harmful. So again, if it's a hard message, or if it's a sensitive message that comes through, just understanding again that what I'm trying to say is I don't filter out the message if it's a hard message, but I do care about the emotion that it gives my client. So I'm inconsiderate of hard messages and how it should be delivered to to my client, or the person I'm connecting with. And again, just based off of like where they're at. If someone's coming to you and they're already a mess, and they're bawling, as soon as you're there with them, it's probably not a great idea to then deliver more difficult, really deep, heavy messages with that client. And it's probably best to give them an experience, yes, because they need that. They've come to you for healing and validation, empowerment. But I think that it's important to be able to gauge, not to be emotionally responsible for your client, but to be able to gauge what kind of baggage can be delivered to them. I hope that makes sense. And one other thing I will say, just on the last, the show thing and having multiple different types of mediumship, you're right, Brandie. People don't realize or understand that, like, in mediumship, there's like lots of subtypes of what you can do with this gift that everybody can tap into or learn to use if they wish to do so. However, I also do not like, having this gift, honoring it means not using it as a party trick for me. It's different if that's your profession. If that's your profession, then that's your profession and that's what it is. But like if I'm at a get together with friends, or if I'm out socially and someone's like, oh, hey, I hear you're a medium. What do you get from me? It's not the time or the place. If you would like to experience these gifts and you would like to experience a session, I would love to do that with you. However, my boundaries are like, I'm a human too. So I just wanted to add that in there.
And thank you for doing so. You're next.
Hey, I love this. Actually, I love that you finished on that, Ali, because that's like everybody, as soon as you're at a party and people know you're a psychic medium, they're like, is there anyone around me? And I'm like, nope, I'm actually switched off. I am literally just me today. And this will lead actually really well into what I was going to add to that as well. And kind of touches back to the last question and this question as well of people's vulnerability, right? Is we should never be giving unsolicited advice as a psychic medium, right? We need permission. And going back to the celebrity type mediums, remembering that one session that you will see on TV would have took 7 or 8 hours for them to film. And when it looks like they're walking up to people saying, hey, I've got your loved one here, remember, they already have a camera, they already mic'd up, they've already received permission, right? So they just film it in a way that doesn't look like they have, right? So we should never, ever be going up to someone at a party and giving unsolicited advice to people. That's the biggest thing. And I say that with love and compassion because I've actually done it myself. At the beginning, when you have all these things start to happen to you, and you don't know the boundaries, you don't know how to switch it on and off, what happens is, you have massages and have, the grandma of the girl that's massaging you, talking to you the whole massage, right? It's not very relaxing, but also at the end of that, feeling like you need to deliver this information, was what was happening to me. So if someone's listening and that's happening to them, that's the time that you have to really start looking at understanding how these abilities to work for you, right? Because again, when we're saying our spirit told me I had to give you this message, did they really? Or are you feeling good about the fact that you can do that, right? So that it's a bit of a double-edged sword. That's my belief, certainly around that. And when we talk about vulnerability with clients, certainly for me being in the healing medium space, I start everything from my heart space. Everything should start for me from the heart and from the want to create healing between my client and their lost loved one. A lot of people find me because they have closure, they have things that were unsaid that need to be said, that want to be heard. And I think if we can always lead from the heart space, that is an amazing place to be as a medium. Looking at vulnerability, I recommend all of my mediums are trauma informed. And going back to what Alyssa says in the beginning, if somebody is in heavy grief with you, they only have the capacity in their nervous system to hold so much. And often you'll see on social media platforms where mediums deliver a piece of information, and it could be something quite traumatic, like how the person died. And then they'll continue to repeat the same piece of information. I don't know if anyone's ever seen that, but it's absolutely devastating to watch, because you can see the recipient, they're absolutely in devastation, right? But they're doing it in a way to provoke that for, a recording. I'm not saying they're all bad or anything like that, but you can see what they're doing. It's for entertainment purposes. And for me, it's about understanding where your client is, being able to hold them right through what they need to express. As Ali said, if they become, emotional, taking a pause, just stopping with them, allowing them to feel the emotion move through, often is part of a mediumship process. It's not just all about us delivering as much as we get, or ticking off boxes. For me, it's really about healing them in a way that they haven't been able to be healed before. And part of that means that we have to be able to hold our own nervous system. And especially as empaths, we I don't know about anyone else, but certainly, like, I was always someone that as soon as my friends started telling me a story that made me a little bit emotional, I'd be like crying before they even told the story, right? Because I'm already there with them. But when we're a medium and we're delivering really sensitive information, we also need to have been doing the work on ourselves and really holding our own nervous system, because we do not want to join our client. Like we do, nobody wants to have a medium. And I've seen this happen where the client is apologizing for making the medium actually emotional. Yes, do we want to be emotional? Absolutely, because we're dealing with sensitive, beautiful, healing information. We want to be able to feel that, but not make the reading about us by joining them, because that really leans into their vulnerability, right? It's making the reading mean something about me instead of it being all about the client, which it certainly should be. So I think that I'll leave this with the fact that as a psychic medium, you should always leave your client in a better space than when you found them. And that, for me, is the biggest part of being a medium. Thank you. Thanks for that conversation, Brandie.
Oh, I really love everything you guys are bringing forward here. And we're going to move into the third question. But first, I want to share with everybody that with the PsyChicks community being so diverse, so we have beginners who are just going through their spiritual awakening like today, and that's how they come to us. And then we also have people who've been doing this work professionally 20, 30, even 50 years with some of our very experienced and mature practitioners. And so there's diverse levels of experience. And one thing, since I've been running this since 2019, that I have realized, right, is when somebody's, and M touched on this actually, when somebody's first experiencing their gifts coming online, or maybe they're working with a mentorship, or they're in a course, or they're doing different things personally, they're excited to share what they can do. And sometimes they take the immediate leap from, I'm excited and I want to show off my new magic trick. They immediately assume, and now it's time to start taking on clients. And so that I'm sharing because there's context to this question, because I don't mean to call somebody an amateur in like a negative way, but there is a massive difference between two amateurs being like, let's get together and practice this within a container to develop ourselves and become better. And in my opinion, what is somebody who has done the right amount of professional development to be putting themselves up on a website like ours or offering themselves out there online. I have experienced varying levels of quality in my own, encounters with like hundreds of people out there who are being professional mediums on the internet through running PsyChicks. And there is a very different level of type of energy you get. And so if I'm saying amateur and you are recognizing that maybe as having a negative context, it's not a negative thing. It's okay to be excited about what you can do. And everything that they've shared here about that, I think is just some generous feedback to meter yourself against. And so moving into this next question, what do you believe makes someone a professional medium versus a developing amateur? And how can a person improve their professionalism? So we will start this time with Alyssa.
Thank you. It's really hard, this question, Brandie, because like as you were just describing that amateur, a lot of people have a negative correlation with that word. And so I think professional is kind of like the opposite side of the spectrum, where people think that you have to have a certain amount of something or a certain level of something in order to even be considered or called a professional. By dictionary definition, a professional is someone who simply takes on a specific task or topic and embodies it. So in, the small way, if you're doing this and you're, I think what I'm trying to say is it has to be, I think, it's a personal perspective of what professional means. But the difference to me, what makes a medium a professional versus an amateur, is a medium who has had enough life experiences and has had enough awareness about themselves, and the processes of flowing, healing, the whole process from start to finish. It's like you can't speak of an experience that you've never really experienced truly and authentically. So I think for someone to be considered a professional medium, really, what does that mean to you? Like, what are you looking for in a medium? Are you looking for someone who can give just like evidence and like pieces of evidence, and the messages don't matter? Are you looking for someone who can really get into meaningful messages and really get into the feeling space of these things? And so with the different types of mediums, it's hard for me to answer this question specifically for it to be professional versus amateur, because I feel like to be a professional, it's a personal awareness on like how much experience have you had personally, and do you have enough of that to be able to offer guidance or hold space for other individuals who might be going through the similar path. I'm not saying like people who haven't experienced certain things can't bring forward messages and evidence, but for them to be a professional, I think, like, again, if you're looking for a medium that just can bring through bits and pieces of evidence, then, and they do that really well, and you're like, wow, they're professional to you. But to somebody else, they might be looking for a different type of mediumship experience. So to be a professional medium in whatever type of mediumship you're doing, just having enough of that type of experience or you have to experience it to give it. So you have to be able to have enough of this experience yourself. Okay, you can be a professional, but I think it takes a little bit of time to be able to understand the full process of being able to walk clients through what they're expecting in their sessions with you. And that can't happen like overnight. And it can't happen if you don't have experiences, like if you don't put yourself out there and have these experiences to give yourself growth and learning, because when you have more knowledge, you're more capable and you're more able to connect, make better connections, more connections. So I think that's, for me, that's what I'll say about the difference between the two.
I want to reassure you, you're doing wonderful. You're okay. Okay, and so next up on this one, I believe we have, oh no, you guys have moved and you're in a different order. So I'm gonna go ahead and say Sybil, and I apologize if I'm getting that incorrect.
Okay, so what makes a medium a professional is I don't define it as being better or more gifted. It's really about like consistency, responsibility, and again, the ethics part. So I feel if you can connect to spirit in a reliable way, like not just once in a while, like you can do it all the time. Have strong boundaries and know how to hold that safe space that can communicate clearly and gently and honestly with your clients. I feel like that's I mean, spirit brings through messages, and I tell my clients that I'm saying everything that comes through, and it's usually all it's knock on wood, it's never been anything like bad. So it's all something that they really need to hear and help move them forward. And I feel that charging in a way that doesn't take advantage but reflects their time and their skill. So they're, being a medium, you also want to you want to help people, but you also want to, that this is your business and you want to be able to, perform in that way. And just showing up on time. Let's see. One of them is, yeah, just knowing how to deliver those difficult messages with care and that just, yeah, with mainly care and definitely maintaining that confidentiality. Did you say you wanted me to do the second part, right?
Yes.
Okay.
How can a person improve their professionalism?
Okay, so I feel practicing regularly is to build consistency and accuracy is one of the things that has helped me tremendously. When I feel that's huge. Like sometimes when we want to work with our mediumship, but if we're just here alone, like talking to spirit, we don't get validation. How can we know what messages are coming through if we don't have somebody to practice on or work with? So I think that is one of the huge ones. Definitely find a group or a mentor, I feel is important. Getting feedback. I know a lot of people say that you don't need feedback for trust, but I feel like that is how you can really get the trust in yourself and the confidence is by when you give the messages and then they wow, that was really amazing. That was from my father, and this is exactly what he said, those exact words. And those things we kind of want it to boost our confidence because then we know that the messages that spirit is giving us is spot on, and then we can make then we know it's just more on how we can relate back to that person. I feel like whether you're a professional or an amateur, we are always learning. So it does not matter if you had, 5 minutes or, 5 years. It's really about we will constantly learn every day because we go through changes, transformations, more grief, and we deal with things differently. And I feel that comes with it all is the learning part. And just treating every client with respect, patience, and again that confidentiality. I feel like just and just feeling empowered. That's so if you want to feel more empowered, I feel like that the being with a group of people that is like-minded, not people that are judgmental. You want to be in a safe, secure group with people that you trust, that you become friends with, that you feel comfortable with. That's important. That safe space is really important. Okay, so M.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sybil. Yes, lots of things that you said there, I totally agree with for sure. And I think there's a difference between professional medium and professionalism as a medium. I really feel like there's a bit of a difference, especially in the industry. There's lots of people who call themselves professional mediums, but they're not professional as a medium in the type of stuff that Sybil really just brought forward. And for me, being a professional medium is taking radical responsibility for my own shit, basically. And, that's the top and bottom of it. And I think working from that heart space where, you get yourself out the way. It's nothing to do with me. It's nothing to do with what I can do. And it's all really about, you know, bringing that connection, bringing the person that you have lost to life. Like, I know my experience, the first time I had someone bring through someone very close to me who had passed, the experience that I had actually was beautiful. And I wanted to be able to give other people that experience. I wanted, if I could do this. And I think I agree, professional isn't, it's not a space of time. It really isn't for me. You have people who have known they've been connected since birth. They've been experiencing things since they were young. They kept that all the way through their life. Now, how do we rank their professionalism? Like, there isn't a ranking of that, right? Or you have someone like me and a lot of people I work with who always knew they had weird stuff that happened to them, but they didn't really know what it was. And then it wasn't until they experienced either trauma or profound loss that then their abilities came online really quickly, and hot and quick and heavy and all the things, you know, like really overwhelming. So you know, that's what my experience was like. And I think professionalism for me as a mentor is about guiding people, and even as a medium in a mediumship reading, it's being guiding people to see their highest timeline, what's available to them, how they can move to, you know, if it is from that profound grief, how can we hold them and move them, you know, and help them to heal parts of whatever's happening. And as mediums, that's why I will continue to bang on about the fact that mediumship is a healing modality. You know, I have so many people who sat opposite me that have had so much healing in a connection with their loved one that, you know, other things that they've done haven't touched. And so I guess if you want to be a professional medium, get yourself out the way, do your own work, right? Do the stuff that you know that you've got to do, because believe me, and I don't know if the other girls agree with this, when we agree to work with spirit, to be alongside them on this journey, we're going to have to deal with a lot of our own crap that's going to come up, right? Because that's the journey. And as a professional medium, the one thing that I'll finish off with is that I believe, it's my belief system, that we can only hold our clients to the depth that we have met ourselves. That's what I believe. So if you are avoiding your own shit, you're not dealing with whatever you're doing, how can you hold your client for healing if you're not mirroring that? Everything is a mirror back to yourself. That's what I believe. The experiences that you have, there's whether you deem them good or whether you deem them bad, right? That's just a belief. There's not really a good or a bad. It's just experience or feedback. Is if we can look at something and go, oh, what is the lesson that I need from this experience, rather than, you know, why has this happened to me? Like, you know, bad things always happen or whatever that is. When we go through the whole healing process, we can understand, and this is really important, actually, I'm just going to divert here because I'm getting downloads, is that this also happens when, as Alyssa was explaining, we will receive information that's uncomfortable. We will receive information that we think, holy moly, like, how on earth am I going to deliver this information? Or should I really deliver this information? And, you know, as a professional medium myself, that is not my decision to run it through my filter. It's when I connect with spirit, I have an agreement that everything that they deliver to me, I will deliver. The way I deliver it is very important, right? So that's where the trauma healing and understanding how to hold your client through whatever you need to deliver, because when we run the information through our own filter system, that's when we are saying what's important to us, but we do not know what's important to the client. Guess who does? Their loved one. They know what they need more than you do. So I guess the biggest thing is getting ourselves out the way as mediums, which isn't easy. That's why lots of people go into development or get a mentor, because that's the biggest part, isn't it? Getting ourselves out of the way to allow ourselves just to be that clear channel for the other side. So I'll leave you with that. I think that wraps it up for me. Maybe there's some questions.
You all did so wonderfully with those 3 questions. I want to speak just a little bit while the audience here is able to come up with their questions, put those in the chat, raise your hand if you want to be on deck to come on camera with us. You'll find the hand raising option at the bottom of the screen if you're on a desktop. So just kind of toggle over it and Zoom will pop up. There'll be a hand. If you're on a mobile device, it's different depending what kind of phone you have, but you will find it. There are 3 dots. Click there, and then there should be an option to raise your hand, just so you know, in case you're unfamiliar with Zoom. But I want to add, because this came to me as somebody who's worked with a lot of mediums. A lot of my client base have been mediums just through the development of my own marketing business, but also the circles that I run in. And one of the frustrations that I did experience from a marketing director perspective, so I'm behind the scenes with these types of businesses, right, is sometimes a person can have a beautiful brand as a medium. They can say all the right things. They can, just like the entertainment type mediums, they can create a whole vibe and people go to them and flock to them because whatever they're putting out online, they're just better at social marketing, or they've invested in advertising, or they've had some form of kind of a leg up to present themselves. And within that, there's an assumption that that makes them a professional because of the presentation. And one of the frustrations I've had working behind the scenes of this is how that person presents themselves and behaves behind closed doors, right, in their marketing meetings, how they treat their team and their staff, the integrity they have around, paying their invoices, not, bad talking their clients behind closed doors. All of those things are happening at the professional level. And one of the inspirations I had when creating PsyChicks is to try to create some form of equalizer. Because just as that's happening, swing to the positive, there's these hidden gem of people who maybe are not marketing savvy or tech savvy or have the advertising budget or haven't rose to those opportunities yet, but they have a really grounded and significant devotion to integrity, devotion to ethics, are afraid to do this work unless they're going to do it 100% correctly and leave everybody better than they found them. And being somebody, because of my unique exposure to these varying degrees, I want to share with the audience that just because somebody doesn't look like the professional celebrity level medium, or they're not out there, with a high ticket curriculum or getting all these opportunities to stay on media or podcasts and whatnot, doesn't mean that they're less professional, maybe just because they did their website themselves. The difference, in my opinion, from a marketing perspective of professionalism is basically they create consistency also in the experience for their clients, meaning they show up on time, they follow all of these important things such as being trauma informed, having self-awareness, reading the room with people, creating containers that are empathetic and also impactful. All these things you've talked about. There's so many out there who should be maybe better known or have more clients or the best choice, especially for somebody in grief or in a situation that's more sensitive, who don't have that level of visibility. So it's important to keep that in mind. And I think in this conversation to share that what somebody presents externally, that's just marketing. But it's going to be things like the testimonials or the word of mouth or, whatever maybe they are putting out for content, what that feels like, how it resonates with you. Because the number one concern about the hidden gem mediums is that they're so concerned, they're so worried about doing things right that they're not putting themselves out there. They're almost scared because they don't want to misrepresent themselves, even if though they're incredibly talented and try to make sure that they're always getting better and they're always providing people with the best possible experience. And I'm very lucky because I have those type of people in my collective who I get to support to put on a platform where there is visibility. And that's really what I want to say about this, because you guys are talking, I'm like, this is one of the reasons I do what I do, to bring forward not just the people with the largest marketing budget or the most showmanship but to really give the opportunity for people to discover these hidden gems. And all three of you are, to me, hidden gems and wonderful, integrity-based, ethical, heart-led light workers. So thank you so much for your contributions today, because you've really inspired me once again. All these panels have been so inspiring to remind me why I'm doing what I do. So I'm taking a look here at our wonderful questions contributed from the audience. I'm just going to go in the order that they're showing up. If you are somebody who's asked a question and you'd like to come on camera and discuss, you can. However, it looks like it's in the comments, so I'm going to just assume because it's in the comments that you don't wish to do that. I'm just going to read your question to our panelists. If you would like to come on camera, raise your hand. That will indicate to us that you want to come in that way. All right, so we have a question here from Heather, and she says, I don't want to be on camera tonight. There we go. But I'd like to hear, how do you make sure your mediumship practice is ethical towards the beings or the loved ones who have passed? Are we disturbing them? Also, how do we know it isn't an earthbound spirit faking like they're someone's relative? Are you able to tell if they are earthbound or if they have completely crossed over? So this is a multi-part question, and I think we should just focus on one item at a time because there's probably a lot of depth for each question. So I'm just going to go back and I'm going to say, first of all, how do you make sure your mediumship practice is ethical towards the beings or loved ones who have passed? So we'll start there. Do any of you have something come immediately up? Okay, Em, go ahead.
I love this. Okay, thanks, Heather. All right, the way that I look at this is, imagine that you haven't seen like your bestest friend for so long, and then somebody is like, okay, here's a train ticket, you can go and see them. I can click your fingers and you're going to be there. Like the way that I look at this about ethicalness towards loved ones who have passed is like, I truly believe, and everyone has to feel for this, like when you first open your channel to be a medium, literally you can't keep them out. You can't keep the spirits out. They're like, oh my goodness, he's one, she's open. Like, I want to come and talk to her. I want to give all the information. Like, I've had people find me in my other job and I've ended up channeling a loved one and not even knew I was doing it because they seen an advert of mine that brought them in front of me that then had me connect. So I get excited because I feel like the loved ones who have passed over, they're just so grateful to have the opportunity to connect back to their person and for us to be able to do that. So I think the ethicalness of that really is, when we're a soul, those things don't, all the things like that don't, it's like a human thing. Does that make sense? Like it's kind of like a human trait rather than a soul trait for them to go, well, is it ethical for me to come and speak or to come through? For me, I don't believe that. I believe that all people who have passed over into the spirit world, like they wanna connect with their loved ones. They want to have that opportunity, and it actually more excites me that I can give them the opportunity to do that. That's my take on it.
Sybil, Alyssa, do you have anything to add?
Sure. Absolutely. They want to connect with us just as much as we want to connect with them. They're with us along our path. They're watching us, they're rooting us on. Even if we can't see them, we can feel them. Like they're always there no matter what. So I feel like if it's, I've noticed that once I've asked them, just, for instance, like, Dad, be with me here, show me a sign. And he always brings through those signs. So it's almost as if no matter how far away we think they are, they're really always right here. Like, so there's definitely, I feel like there's no gap in between that time frame. They're always, they're waiting for us to say, hey, show me a sign, so definitely.
Alyssa, do you have anything to?
I do. I agree with both Em and Sybil in the way that how it's coming in for me is our soul when the physical body is no longer and it's the soul, that soul doesn't have the physical body as a restraint anymore. So to what Em was saying is like it's a human experience to be like our loved ones definitely always want to speak with us. They always want to guide us. They are part of our soul connections. And at a higher level, that's just it. They're always there close to give and offer that guidance, that empowerment, because they want to help you in the physical world just as much as because the physical affects your higher being, and the higher being is, part of and connected with them already. So I don't think that there's such thing as disturbing them. If anything, again, like what Emma's saying, they're so excited, and they're the ones that do the most of the disturbing, and trying to get their messages across to their loved ones, just because they're just so excited to offer that guidance and that help. And again, sometimes just that validation of, hey, I got your back and I'm still here. So I was just looking back at the question to make sure. And the other thing that came in when the question was asked about ethically connecting to loved ones past, the only thing that again I think wouldn't really matter, but that the question would be of how you describe them. If you're describing them physically, just be kind with how those descriptions come through. That would be the only real ethical line, I think, with connecting and bringing forward that loved one.
Thank you, ladies. So there was a second part to that question, and I wanted it to be addressed separately, which was, how do we know if it isn't a spirit faking like they're someone's relative? And this is a curiosity I think a lot of people have, and they maybe feel fearful of asking. So let's hit this one. Let's hit the one head on, because I know it's a common question, and there's varying, opinions on this.
Yeah, I'm happy to speak into that a little bit. So really, this is all about intention. And as I mentioned earlier in this talk, when you first step into this space, certainly from my experience, it was like I opened the door to spirit, right? And I was like, everybody just come in, anybody can arrive. And, I had a lot of experiences like that was very overwhelming. Some of them good, some of them also a little bit fearful, that kind of came in for me as well. And I think the biggest thing here is understanding your discernment of what is the spirit communication and what's something else. And for me, it took me to really go into development with someone, right? A mentor, to understand what's my energy, what's spirit's energy, so loved one spirits, what's my spirit guides, if I'm connected to them, what's the energy of them, how do they feel to me, and then the energy of something that is different. All right, because remember, when we're a soul and we pass over, we're reading energetics, we are receiving information through our different clair senses, but it's all energy, isn't it, that we're reading. And if you imagine, I'm trying to get an analogy because I always talk in analogies and that's how I learn. It's for me, I've got 3 children, right? So if I'm in a room with my back to the door and someone walks in my door, my husband or my children, I energetically know which child it is, right? I energetically know who's walked in the room because they have a certain energy or vibration about them that I am familiar with. So, when I work with students, we talk into understanding your own energy. This is really good if you're an empath as well, because you walk around and you just take everybody else's energy all day and you're knackered and exhausted at the end of the day, because then you can also understand what's not your energy in your physical during the day, but also with any other energies. And you talk about spirit faking as someone else's relative. For me, that's not in my existence. I have set my boundaries very, very tight, that when I connect to the spirit world, I am connecting to someone's loved one. The intention of that is also very big. But if you're talking about it in the way of, I get things that just arrive and come in, then yeah, you have the door open. So this has got to be about learning your boundaries, about how you want to work with the spirit world in order for that experience not to happen. So that's my take on it. And I'll pass it over to one of the other girls if they want to add something to that too.
You want me to go next? Okay, so I do a lot, and I agree with everything that Em said. I do a lot of cold cases, paranormal investigations. So, and obviously mediumship in connecting with loved ones. So I have a whole array of energies that I connect with. So, like Em said, you kind of know the difference. And I think that's just what I naturally do is I feel into the energy and I know if if I'm connecting to something specifically, that's who I'm connecting with. It's not, oh, I'm going to bring through somebody for you, but it's, somebody, it's a cold case file that I was working on. It doesn't mismatch, you know what I mean? So like as far as if they're faking it, I think it would just like, again, my spirit team doesn't have, I don't think that's even a possible thing for them to come into my frame of reference because either my spirit team, kicks them out or it's just, it doesn't exist in when I connect with, specific loved ones. So I think it's all about too, maybe if people look for those types of energies, again, you're bringing in those energies. So it's like they might be misinterpreting who's coming through as if they're being fake, So I definitely have it's the real deal when you work with real mediums, I feel.
Alyssa?
Yes, again, I agree with both these ladies, and just understanding and doing the work so that you can differentiate the difference of what it feels like, because like that's how we receive energy is by through those clairs, but to understand how those clairs feel differently for different types of vibrations that come in. Your intent is energy in itself. So when you intend, I put this boundary up. This is my intention. I am, the door is only open for this loved one right now. And also taking the time to do and sit with your spirit guides and your spirit team and lay out, what I call your contract with them. And this is what I expect, but this is what I would like to do. This is how I'm going to work. So if you would like your messages delivered, we're going to work together and we will honor each other's boundaries in that way.
I love this question and those answers because I'll put myself on camera here. Because I think sometimes too, right, how people come into their gifts, they're very open. Like, I think about one of my first encounters with spirit was with the Ouija board at like 14 years old, and somebody's mom came in and was like, "Let's do this, girls. This is what you do to sleepover." And that's really like a vulnerable and delicate situation, right? Because she's not a professional medium. Maybe she's like dabbling in it, but like then you also have these children engaging. That's why people tend to recommend it's not smart to do that because you are open to everything and you also have not like learned discernment or done the work to, I mean, as us as children, we didn't even have the awareness of what we were participating in really as far as like the grand scheme of things there. And I think about that a lot because there's a lot of people who are really hungry for other things like power or influence or abilities that, they're sitting in their home and they're like, oh, I want to feel something. And they're like opening themselves up to everything before they're ready for anything. And we do see that. We do see that in the the PsyChicks community, right? People are hungry to have an experience that is a validating experience. So sometimes the process of which they go about that is a recipe for, if you're acknowledging this stuff exists, then you're acknowledging that things can come through that aren't what they are claiming to be, that are deceitful. But we're talking about within a professional medium practice, there's the first step, which is the awareness that that is possible, and then again, setting those intentions and the protections and practice and mentorship and all these important things we've talked about tonight to avoid the situation where you can be used in that way, because then that, first of all, at the minimum, is just going to be dangerous to you and your experience, but maximum, like people get attachments, different things happen that are consequential to that, that I think we all know is very real and possible as you are dipping into this kind of thing. So I really appreciate you guys weighing in. Go ahead, Em.
Yeah, I'd like to add as well, fear breeds fear. And that's what we have to remember. Like, fear is a frequency. So, when if we're in fear of something happening, what happens is we're on the frequency of that fear. So chances are it's going to happen, isn't it? Because we're vibrating that frequency of like, what if this happens? And universal law of kind of energy is that we get where we focus our energy. So we have to remember that as well. Like, if we have that in our awareness, if it could happen, then there's a chance that that is going to happen. So it's having a look at what your belief system is as well, and that's another whole rabbit hole, but I wanted just to add that on.
Oh, there's so much we could talk about, but let's get to Erin's question here. It's great. We're gonna address this one now. So, can you tell me how you handle clients who come seeking details or insights about other living people that are of a personal nature, such as emotional, romantic, or medical? So let's do it. Alyssa had her hand up, so we'll let you go first.
Okay. One of my rules is I do not read anybody who is not in the room with me unless they are spirit. That for several reasons. Mediumship sessions for me are not a sit and gossip sesh. And for me, if we're going to talk about somebody who is not present, for them to be able to have that same awareness and opportunity to grow, I don't feel that that's appropriate, personally. So if I have people coming to me and they're looking for these types of things about a different being, it's more so, okay, so what does that mean about yourself though? Like, we're asking about this other being's participation or this other being's situation, but instead, we're not like, what does that mean? Like, let's look into that. Or let's look into why that concern is heavy on you right now and why you hold that concern. And that way my clients they get something out of our experience together. And it's not about anybody who is not present, because like I said, if we're going to talk about somebody that's not in the room in that space, I feel we're robbing them of an opportunity of awareness and growth for themselves. And that's just energy wasted. And to me, it's more of a gossip sesh than it is helpful.
I appreciate that. Sybil, M, who would like to go next? Sybil, go ahead.
I absolutely agree with Alyssa. I feel that it's almost as if they're fishing for information about, what they're asking rather than trying to help that person in a, more of a compassionate way. I know sometimes we kind of, need guidance on how it would be different if like I need guidance on how I can work better in my relationship rather than like tell me what's going on in his, like what's he doing, who's he talking to, you know what I mean, type of thing. So it's really, again, like Alyssa said, like going back to, it's more about the questions that are coming from the person asking those, and it's really to fish for information and then maybe even using it against them. Oh, this, I just went to a psychic and they told me that, you're doing this. So I would say that's a definite no. Just say maybe if you wanted to do a session with that person, or if it's like again, like I'm just using a relationship situation here, to bring the other person along, we can do something like that. But say I don't do that kind of personal thing unless that person's here. Absolutely.
Em, would you like to weigh in?
Yeah, I'll add a little bit to the end. Yeah, it's consent, isn't it? It's a bit like what we talked about at the beginning with ethics, right? We don't have consent to read their energy. another person. I agree with the girls. Like if it is like I'm in a relationship, I mean, obviously this is psychic work as opposed to mediumship work. But if it's, I'm in a relationship with someone and, I want some information about this relationship, often they have the information. They just don't trust it. That's what I find. So they seek a medium because they want to validate what they're feeling, and they just don't trust themselves to understand or to say what's going on. That's my experience generally in these situations. And again, in the medical field, I did have once a lady at a market want me to medically diagnose her husband after medical professionals could not diagnose them. And apparently, because I was a psychic, I should be able to tell her exactly what's wrong with him. And that's what she said to me. I think that if you're in a professional space and you are booking sessions online, you can have this in your terms and conditions clearly before someone books with you, that the person has to be in the room, or I don't do, as Alyssa said, medical or pregnancy reading. So that can be something that they can tick, or they have to tick the box of that they understand that you don't provide that. Then it just removes it altogether, right? You don't have to actually even address that, or you can come back to it actually says in the T's and C's that you booked that I don't actually do that. So I think for me, if a reading organically moves to something that comes in for that person, then yes, then I will deliver that, because again, I trust that Spirit is giving me exactly what my client needs. But yeah, it's all back to ethics, isn't it? We wouldn't go through someone else's phone, we wouldn't go through their handbag. So we're not about to read their energy without their permission. So I think that's the biggest thing for me.
Thank you so much for those answers. And we're going to start moving towards wrapping up. That question there really reminded me of the early days of having the PsyChicks website up and the forums. And early on, we were often mistaken for like a psychic hotline type thing. And so just so everybody's aware, and it's kind of behind the scenes, is I can access the questions that go to the collective members if I ever need to like recover one for somebody or look at something as kind of like an admin or moderation, but I don't go and like read the inbox questions. There's just, a boundary there I just have the ability to see them if I wanted to, just like any website that's operating could potentially do. But that said, in the early days, right, when we had the Facebook group was bumping, it was early in COVID and everyone was working their inboxes, we'd be getting questions all the time. And the type of questions that would be concerns to some of the practitioners, some of the side chicks at the time, were often like, is my boyfriend coming back to me? Or, is this happening? Like this third party reading type thing. And obviously, like I try my best not to like dictate how the PsyChicks Collective choose or don't choose to proceed. I just told them, if you don't do that, pass it on to someone who does. And sometimes we had members who would tackle those kind of things. And just as there's the entertainment intuitives, there's room for that. But at the same time, there's also this delicacy. I think that's really important to remember, that most of the time, just like Em said, when somebody's asking something, you can read into it, you can infer into it the reason why they're asking that, and you can usually find where they're in pain, where they're feeling lost, where they're feeling blocked. When I've personally worked my own inbox, and I do that from time to time as I put myself out there and use my own intuitive gifts, I see that, and just as Alyssa described, I do the same thing. I prefer to inflect on the question so I can still provide support to the person without doing the third party thing or making assumptions or trying to go, to a place that whether or not I can go there, I don't belong. That's kind of my mindset. But there are all types, and some people, they're up on psychic hotlines a lot of the time. They're out there in the world. They do all sorts of things. And, it's free will. We all have free will. We can learn wherever that person's at in their journey, third party, not third party readings, but each individual makes that choice. And there's a way to navigate that without being like, because I don't do this, my business is going to fail, so I have to start doing this. And there's also a point where maybe you'll change or you'll evolve your decision making on that due to kind of knowing almost better, right? So just as we're talking about the amateur to professional, in some cases, amateurs, when you can go ahead right away, I'll just finish my thought. In the amateur, they're just really excited. People want to know things from them, and they may take on third-party readings and stuff, but you only need to be asked the same question about somebody's boyfriend who broke up with them like 100 times, where you, as you're developing, are gonna go, okay, this is not how I want to spend the rest of my life. This is not how I want to spend my time or my gifts. It's not my highest calling, my highest level of service. It's definitely not my soul's mission. So you tend to evolve past that once you've had mass exposure to it. And that's all I want to say. Alyssa, you go ahead.
I was going to add that like pregnancy and medical are definitely, for me personally, are no touch on. If people want to do relationship reads, again, I make it more like about them. What I will do for relationships is like prospect partners, like, oh, like what is like what is my soulmate, doing? And I will do those readings, but with a disclaimer. I do disclaimers with those readings, and they understand that energetically these things can shift and things can change. And even if I'm reading about a relationship, I make it more about like the connection and not the other person. I read about the relationship itself and how it would benefit my client, than reading about like tapping into whomever this other person might be. So I just want to add that in.
Go ahead, Em.
Yeah, I'd love to wrap up that a bit, what you just said there as well, Brandie. The biggest thing is there isn't any right or wrong. Everyone is going to go through the journey they need to go through to get where they need to be. And, I've worked out of place where we did, phone readings, exactly what you've said, Brandie. Like I would have the same girl, she would ring every single week, like my boyfriend's left me again, is he coming back? And they did those type of readings, but every single week. And for me, you're right? It was, I got to a point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like my soul is literally like dying from taking these phone calls, because for me, it was very disempowering for her. And every time I tried to guide her to empowering, it came back to the same thing. And I think from a medium point of view, we have to experience that stuff to know what we want and what we don't want. And then also to know what lights our soul up. I had that experience and I was like, okay, this isn't for me, because I like to empower people. And for me, this is so disempowering every week for her to call crying that he's gone again. The next week he's back, like, and I was like, no, this is not what my soul's calling. But guess what? I did it. And I had that experience, which was great, because then I can go, okay, what's the next part of this journey that I want to do? Because then it shows me the road where I want to go. And it's the same as doing readings without permission, right? I did that, now I know better, because I've experienced that and understand why that could be harmful as well, because obviously we don't know where the person is that we're delivering the information. We don't know where they are energetically, really. So I think that no experience is a bad experience. It's actually just adding to us, on our journey of where we're going. That's kind of what I wanted to say.
Thank you for adding that. So was there anything else?
I think that wraps up what you guys have said. I agree with everything that you said there, especially with the love readings. I find them very those are the ones that people don't listen to the most. They ask the question, they already know the answer, but they want to hear a different one. So then they'll go to the next one, ask the same question, the next one ask the same question. And so, I tell the universe, don't send me those unless it's something that they want to find real insight on. But yep, I think that's a hard one for people, because they really just want what they want with that person, even though they know they're not good for them,
Yes. And we've definitely put up boundaries and changed some of our marketing presentation for PsyChicks to kind of alleviate some of that, because the inboxes were quite busy with with those types of questions early on, and consulting with the members at the time. Again, it can be very exhausting, and there's this frequent flyer phenomenon as well, where either they'll hit the same person's inbox multiple times with those questions. Again, we have a lot of empathy, by the way, when this is happening. If we're talking about a person doing this in the collective, or they're hitting all of our side chicks at once with the same questions, we can tend to discuss that, but it's always really empathetic because we know that a person doing that is in a hurt place. I think, and I can't speak for all, but the type of people that side chicks tends to attract into our collective, again, are very heart-led, and because of that, we don't like talk down about people looking for that type of help. We are all humans too, and we understand what it's like to look for closure and support. And it's great to be able to have these transparent conversations and be like, well, this is what it's actually like for us, the side chicks, when that's going on. But then also say, right, all of us have had lived life experiences where wouldn't it just be nice if somebody could just tell us what to do, or we could outsource our sovereignty to someone else. And there's a lot of people, lost souls out in the world, looking for mediums, looking for psychics, looking for intuitives, looking for people. And in some ways, it's a good thing they find people like ourselves, to speak highly of my collective, who understand that, versus a person who maybe is power hungry, who wants to, take advantage of the fact that that's a way a lot of people are existing. So just so you guys in the audience or anybody watching the replay understand that when this is happening, the compassion level and the empathy is really strong inside of at least our collective. And I want you to know that. And we solve these problems typically by talking about how we can improve the experience for people going through things, not looking down on them for utilizing a resource that's, available, which is our inboxes. And we want to be better than what I also want to disrupt, which is the psychic hotline industry, because a lot of times these are ran by shady people who could care less about what's happening in these inboxes or these chat lines or these hotlines. PsyChicks is not that. We have a vision that's greater than that. We're not aspiring to become, the next psychic hotline out there. So just want to share that from the creator of it to all of you. So here we are at the end, and I really enjoyed tonight's conversation. Erin here is saying it's so great. I love the hard line of consent and commitment, trauma-informed approaches. Thank you. You're welcome, Erin. Thanks for coming on live and joining us to all of our guests. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thanks, Erin.
It is no small thing that on a Friday afternoon, that we've pulled in a little bit of an audience tonight, and this was our most registered event of the panel so far, although I think they're just going to continue to get more and more people. I want to quickly plug our next upcoming panel, which is another hot topic, and I can't wait to have this discussion with the panelists we've chosen. So, spiritual expression without appropriation is the name of the next panel coming up, and it's going to be on November 21st. It's an important conversation, I think we all agree, because there's this concern about, am I doing it right? Am I appropriating? What's authentic to me? Or just, the hot, cool thing I saw on TikTok? I don't know. It's a important conversation to have. The three panelists we've chosen are all, the reason they're chosen for this is because they all are shamans. They are shamans. We also have someone who is a expert in diversity and the integrity component of that, to make sure we're not accidentally appropriating. So it's going to be a very awesome conversation that I hope a lot of people come to and hear, because the goal is not to shame anybody for anything that they're doing. The goal behind this one is to present kind of how to find your own authentic spiritual expression, which is going to be followed up with our date and time to be announced. Still, we're working on that, which is finding joy in your spiritual practice panel. So we'll be talking about creating one that is joyful, and something fun and positive that lights you up. And then in December, we don't have those panels completely booked in yet, but there will be more panels as well as going into the new year. This is a big deal for us in the collective. This is the first time that our collective members have been interacting with each other in this way. So it's great for our own understanding of each other and bonding, but we're producing content that's going to take us beyond a Facebook group, an endless scroll hole, as I could describe it, and add more substance to what we're doing. And we're going to move forward onto other platforms that require video. So we're on YouTube now. So if you've attended tonight and you enjoyed this and you have other people who are in your world, just let them know the PsyChicks are making media now and to come check it out. Please come support our panels, support us, share our Facebook group, share our website and the directory. It is a true collective, or at least that's how I view it, where we all equally want to win together. And if you're thinking about joining the collective, just come talk to me, but there's a landing page that kind of breaks down all that we offer. You can talk to any of the current directory members, because everybody on the directory right now have been with us for an extended period of time. We don't have very many new people. We have really experienced PsyChicks members now, and I invite you to contact any of them and ask what it's like behind the scenes for us. So that's my little spiel. I'd like to invite each of you to say goodnight, and then we will wrap up.
Right, guys, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for having me also. Nice to connect with you guys and do it all in one area. So I love that we all got together tonight talking about something that we're all very passionate about. So
It was awesome.
Definitely.
Thank you, everybody, for joining, watching, registering, listening, and hopefully later engaging. So we'll see you later.
There will be a follow-up email with the replay going out, and I am going to collect whatever freebies or gifties these ladies maybe have in their stock for you guys who came, as well as people who have registered for the replay. And you can find all of us inside of the community if you have any follow-up questions. Thank you so much for your time, everyone, and good night.
Good night.
Thanks, guys. Bye.